Well, hello. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Wednesday Pop-Up Art Studio live stream where we hang out for an hour and a half and create and chat with one another. Just create, connect, do what we need to do to feel good, to have our best day, and keep ourselves inspired while we're in these strange and uncertain times. My name is Mary Cronert, and I'm here on behalf of the LivingRoom Community Art Studio. We are an art hive based out of Oshawa, Ontario, but our virtual programming allows us to connect with people from all over the world. So all ages, all abilities, all walks of life are welcome to join us here today. Gather some supplies that you might have around the house. It doesn't need to be the same kind of materials I'm working with. Just get what you have at hand, pour yourself a cup of tea or coffee, settle in, and let's make some art together. Of course, if you don't have any art supplies, or perhaps you don't really feel like creating something today, you are more than welcome to just enjoy the creative atmosphere, contribute to it by being a part of it, by listening, by watching, by doing what you need to do to help you have your best day. So that might be, I don't know, maybe doing some homework, maybe doing the laundry or washing the dishes, organizing your craft shelves. Whatever you need to do this afternoon, you are welcome to do it. And of course, if you are watching once this has been archived, either on our Facebook page or our YouTube channel, you're welcome too. Thanks for being here and hanging out with us. We appreciate you more than you know. All right, let's see who's out there today. Out here in Oshawa, it's a sunny kind of afternoon. It's warming up a little bit. It's easy to imagine that spring is on its way. So fingers crossed. We hope wherever you're at is just as lovely and nice, and that you're enjoying yourself and feeling safe and healthy and loved in your community. Okay. As always, this is a safe space, so we invite people to remember that as you're creating and chatting with folks through the comments. If you're having trouble or struggling with anything today, this might not be the right place for you, and that's okay. Of course, you're welcome to share what you're dealing with folks. Just be mindful. We try to be as supportive and as encouraging as we possibly can when in this space. So we're all human. We all deal with stuff. We can't promise to be trigger-free, but we do our very, very best. We also invite people to be encouraging and supportive of themselves in this process. So if you're having trouble with the inner critic and it won't let you connect and create and do what you need to do to have a good afternoon, let us know. Maybe we can talk to it, figure out what it wants. And you know what? If it has nothing constructive to say, we can delete it, we can scrunch it up and throw it out. Hello, Jenny. It's good to see folks are here. Welcome. You can do all sorts of things. You don't have to do what I'm doing, but we do ask you to be kind to yourself. That's part of this creative humaning that all of us do. So try to be kind to yourself and remember that you can take breaks whenever you want to. You don't have to stay here for the whole hour and a half. You can drop in and drop out as need be. And, just do what you need to do to feel okay, because these still are strange and uncertain times. There are lots of positive things on the horizon. Yeah, there's lots to look forward to, brighter days ahead. But for today, we're taking care of ourselves and making some art. So if you are out there and you'd like to chat, please join us. Do say hi to folks. Hello, Peter. Welcome other folks if you see them coming on. I may not always be able to see all the comments or who's watching from where I'm at live streaming here. So if you're watching, know that I'm welcoming you. But if someone's in the chat and you see someone else say something or say hello and perhaps I miss it, please feel free to welcome them on my behalf and let them know that as soon as I do see their comment or their question, I can get right back to them. And of course, as always, what are you working on? I always want to know what folks are creating at home. Feel free to put in the chat. Let us know what your projects are. Perhaps if you have pictures, you might like to share them in the afternoon. We sort of do, I guess, an after show, if that's a thing. It's more of a show and tell post that we post every Wednesday after the live stream, where you can upload pictures or links to whatever you're working on so that we can shine a light on what you're doing, share some of the goodness that, well, if we were in the studio space in person with one another, we'd be able to celebrate and honor we can still do that. It's just, it looks a little different these days. Hey, Brandon. Yes, and thank you. Brandon saying, good to see the technology is working. We tried to do a live stream on Instagram yesterday, and boy, was our tech grumpy. Don't know why. Gremlins in the system, who knows? But today, I'm glad to hear things are working. If things begin to change, if I get glitchy or something weird seems to be happening that I'm not aware of, can you let me know in the chat? Just give me a heads up so I can try and fix it. That would be great if you could do that. And for those who were watching yesterday, we were trying to talk to a fabulous artist and maker based out of Cornwall, Yafa Goweli, and we promise that we will schedule them again so that we can chat and connect and learn all about what Yafa is up to over there in Cornwall, because she is a powerful, powerful creative force of nature, and we just got to chat with her. We got to connect. All right, so what am I working on today? That's a good question. Let's see. Let's get making. I've got my coffee here. I got some materials on hand, a whole bunch of stuff that I grabbed before the stream began. All wonderful things that I can make art with today. I don't know if I'll use them all, but it's pretty cool to know they're here. And of course, as always, this is a work in progress kind of thing we're working on, so I'm not going to rush to complete it. And I invite you to be, consider that at where you're at home as well. If you're working on something, there's no need to rush to complete it before this hour and a half is done. Take your time with it, set it aside if you need to, and be gentle to yourself and your inner artist. Hello, Laura. Welcome. Yes, Laura knows what it's like to deal with those tech gremlins. We had a similar experience with Laura Brown when we were interviewing Laura for our Tuesday live stream chat on Instagram. Just one of those strange things, and sometimes it works perfectly, and it was exactly that. After the live stream, you went and you tested everything out, we did some, and it just worked fine. So we just didn't know. Sometimes you just don't know why things aren't working. So Yafa, if you're watching, you're out there, it's not you, don't worry, we'll figure it out. I think sometimes it's easy to forget just how extraordinary technology is and how much I kind of take it for granted. It's amazing that we have these computers in our pockets and that I have all of these things that we can connect with, one another virtually. What an extraordinary thing. So I shouldn't get so upset when things go a little wonky from time to time. It's still pretty much a miracle, isn't it? And hello again, Peter. Peter saying, oh yes, finally here after so many weeks. I was busy with class and so on, so I didn't really come on. That's okay. That's okay, Peter. There are a lot of students out there right now doing their best to keep up, to take care of themselves. It's a really busy time of year. And I know that it's been made more complicated than it would even normally be because of the pandemic and what we're going through and having this strange distance between ourselves, like our colleagues, our teachers, the people we normally turn to for that kind of support and leadership and guidance. It's a very, very strange time. So I'm glad that you're here, Peter. Hopefully today you can use some of this time to take care of yourself and to, do what you need to do to be okay. I know you work awfully hard and you also run the open mic art Hive. So you probably need a bit of a break, I imagine, a little bit of flake out time for your head, just to let new ideas come in and take the place of some of those, the busy kind of like things that you have to do and have to work on. Same for everyone. All right, what do I want to color today? So yes, all of these materials I have here, but I do have one of my favorite art supplies of all time. I have my water-soluble crayons here. They're like oil pastels that you can use like watercolor after the fact. And I love them. I love having the ability to color something in, like using a crayon, and then soften those colors out afterwards with water. So let me get the water over here. Yeah. Here we go. This is today I don't know if you saw the post that I made, but today I'm making some art dolls. very strange, lovely little things. Sometimes they're called spirit dolls, but I didn't want to define it that specifically. And sometimes when people hear the word spirit, they think, I don't know, like ghosts are haunted or something spiritual, like of the religious kind of sense. And it's not that really, not for me. Spiritual perhaps, but it has more to do with creating a kind of figure that represents something important to me, that represents something I need more of in my life right now, or I'm trying to encourage or invite in. And Laura's saying, oh, excellent needle felting for the first time. Yeah, picked up a wool roving knitted scarf thing, and I'm taking it apart, making dryer balls. Stabby fun. Absolutely. You know what? I almost did some needle felting today. I might. Who knows? I might add some onto the doll that I'm creating. We'll see what's happening. We'll see how it goes. But definitely that's something I want to return to. It's one of those things similar to watercolor, in a sense, I find, at least where I'm at in the creative journey of working with needle felting materials, where it's part intention and then part accident. There's this process you kind of have to surrender to when making art of any kind. And certain art forms and modalities encourage it more than others. So watercolor does that for me. Needle felting, you have an idea of what you want, but you have to work with the materials and allow them to do what they want to do all at the same time. And you never quite know what you'll get in the end. You might get the shape that you wanted, but the texture might be different. You might get the texture, but the shape might be a little abstract. It's so interesting to see how things turn out. And you know what? It's a good way of reminding myself to tell that inner critic to be quiet, to put that perfectionist that I constantly have whispering in my ear, tell them to just take a break and sit back and let the art do what it needs to do. Hello, Shelley. Welcome. What are you working on today? So I'm making an art doll. This is one I made at the studio a couple of years ago. And I remember that day, it was such a busy day in the studio, and I've wanted to return to make another one since then. And they're really simple, as you see. There's nothing too fancy to it. I'm just taking some pieces of fabric, sandwiching a little bit of batting in between them. This one I didn't even sew anything on this one. I just used fabric glue to secure everything in place. So I'm going to try and remember that. I'm going to keep it simple today, and I'm just going to let it be what it needs to be, because like a lot of folks out there, even though I'm not a student and I'm not in school, I'm certainly feeling that sense of tiredness. I don't know if anyone else is out there feeling that same thing. We've been through a lot. It's almost been a year since all of this happened, and almost a year now since the studio space shut down and life kind of took a big turn, a big sharp turn. And I think maybe because we're beginning to see that hopefulness come back in a really specific way. I don't know. I think I'm beginning to feel a little more tired. I'm allowing myself to feel tired, perhaps, knowing that relief is on the horizon and coming our way soon. But I think it's important to honor that tiredness. So today I'm just going to take it easy and take it slow and create as I go. And I hope you can do the same thing wherever you are. All right, so I'm going to put this fella aside. I'm going to use my water-soluble crayons just to fill this piece of fabric with color. That's my favorite thing to do anyways. Who am I kidding? You know that. And what is the theme I'm working on today? Spring. Growth. New possibilities, new hopes. Now let's say Shelley's saying I'm out. Oh, interesting. Shelley's saying I'm out of sorts, so just listening today. Yeah, I can relate a little bit, Shelley. I'm sorry you're feeling out of sorts. And for anyone else out there who might be listening or watching, if you're feeling a little out of sorts, I'm sorry to hear that too. But I want you to know it's okay to have those off moments and those off days. It's okay to allow yourself to acknowledge that and to feel that. Certainly, I'm feeling a little out of sorts as well, in my own way, I think. A little tired and restless, all at the same time. Maybe a little bit of longing in there. A little bit of sadness, maybe. And that's okay. It's okay to feel not okay. If it gets worse, though, let me know. And of course, as everybody else out there knows, you can always reach out if things become a little too out of sorts. Don't hesitate to reach out and connect with the people, with the organizations, with the services that can help you feel a little bit better. Because that's all this really is, isn't it? We take one more moment at a time to feel a little bit better. It's in the little shifts, isn't it, where things really come together. One small change at a time. So I hope that if we can just let ourselves feel what we need to feel, and just tell ourselves that it's okay. It's okay. And even if it's not okay, it's not always going to be not okay. That in a few moments, things might be able to lighten up a little bit, shift a tiny bit, shift over into a better feeling place. Where we can imagine something a little different, feel a little different. And who knows, maybe by the time this live stream's over, you'll be brimming with something that feels better than out of sorts. Your sorts will be in. What's the opposite of out of sorts? That's a good question. I put it out there to everybody. What is the opposite of out of sorts? Oh, well, speaking of sorting, Shelley says, I have been sorting my stuffy collection, all 200 plus. Oh my goodness. All 200 plus? Really? That's a lot of stuffies. That's a lot of stuffies. Hello, Crystal. Welcome. I think this is another good time, another good opportunity for sorting, for sifting, for figuring things out. Not only our inner stuff, but our outer stuff as well. I took a little bit of time after the live stream yesterday. I was when it didn't work, I felt so grumpy after that live stream. But I took a little bit of time to tidy up the space a little bit and organize. And suddenly when my outsides, the things outside of me were a little bit tidier, I began to feel a little tidier inside as well. I don't know if that makes sense, but sometimes that's all it takes. Courtney and Crystal, what are you working on today, Crystal? Inquiring minds want to know. Of course, I'm not the boss of you. So if you're working on something or not working on something, and I ask you what you're working on, you don't have to tell me. Who am I? I'm just some weird art lady. All right. So, let's see what I can do with this. Oh, Lottie. Hello, Lottie. And Laura again. Oh, that's an interesting. So what is the opposite of out of sorts? Laura has a suggestion, in the pink or all sorted. Yes, those are, I wonder where does in the pink come from? That's a really interesting phrase all on its own too. And all sorted, you're absolutely right. All sorted. I'm feeling all sorted today. Well, I'm not exactly feeling all sorted, but I hope to feel all sorted. as this moves forward. That's what I'm seeking. That's what I'm making space for, to feel all sorted. And Lottie saying, I love stuffies. There's like so many exclamation marks there. I got a couple of new ones today, and one feels just like a marshmallow. Glad to find another Stuffy fan. You are out there. You are absolutely out there. All those Stuffy fans, you can connect. You can share pictures of your favorite Stuffies, whatever feels right to you. Sometimes it's just really nice to have a cuddle. And sometimes a Stuffy does just the trick. Again, something that we don't necessarily allow ourselves as much as we should as like adults, but why not? Why not allow ourselves some Stuffy cuddling time? Whatever works. Oh, nice. Crystal says watching children today. Oh, that's lovely. Well, hello, all the children. I don't know what your names are, but hello, 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 hello. And Shelley's saying, yes, I have a huge collection of Stuffies and each tell their own story of a piece of my life. Excellent. That's a beautiful thing. Any collection that we have, I find, tends to, it says a lot about us, doesn't it? Where we've been, what we felt, what we want for ourselves. Yeah, important parts of our life, these collections. And a little bit of teasing, I think, going back and forth between Shelley and Crystal about diamond painting, which I still haven't had a chance to explore myself. It's on the list. It's definitely on the list. One day. Yeah. Stuffies are important. It might not be stuffies for everyone. I think each one of us has the own like there's something that we might collect that has that significance for us, that has that beautiful, palpable sense of meaning that we might feel a little bereft without. I have a lot of cookbooks, for example. Cookbooks for me are something that I love. I don't use all of them at once, of course, but each cookbook I have tells a story about a certain point in my life. And there's some I don't use at all anymore, but they're so special to me. I can't imagine getting rid of them because the memories I have that are associated with those cookbooks and how I used them and, the time I spent with them, it's important to me. I don't know, is it a collection? Maybe. It could be a collection. And I think knowing that they're a resource, knowing that I can turn to them if I want to. And I think stuffies might be a similar thing because they're there for you to use, to be with. They take space in your life, but they also have presence. Such an important thing to recognize. What do we want to take up space in our life? And then, of course, the question of what are we ready to let go of? All right. Oh, haha. So diamond painting. Sounds like Crystal, you had Shelley and the kids doing diamond paintings yesterday. Fantastic. And 911 binge watching. I'm not sure. I'm familiar with 911. I'm not sure. That sounds like that sounds like a high stakes show. Something I'm imagining to do with 911. I think TV and shows, everybody has their shows, their stories. I think it's an important part of keeping people not only entertained during this time, but feeling grounded and connected with the world outside. So here we go. I'm going to take this piece of cloth, and it's still a bit damp. I'm not even sure what shape I want to make this doll. Let me decide before I do that. I have some of this fabric over here. And I might use this as a backing, or I might use this as some accent. I'm not sure. You know what? I'm going to start embroidering on this, and I'm going to let the shape of the doll emerge. And I might choose to draw on it after and add extra shape. We'll just see. So to start, let's just plonk it down right there. Plonkety plonk. And Shelley, or Lottie adding into the conversation about stuffies. Oh, I love that, Lottie. That's a beautiful thing. Oh, where'd it go? Saying they're stuffies. Stuffies are like a friend that'll always be there for you. Maybe you could stick some, oh yeah, maybe you could stick some googly eyes on your cookbooks. Then they can become an anthropomorphic friend. You know what's funny about that, Lottie? I don't even need to stick eyes on something to become, like to have it become anthropomorphic. Each one is such a character to me. Clearly a character. I don't need to have googly eyes on them. And anyone who's like, I tend to do that with a lot of things. I think it's something, maybe something about being an artist, maybe something about being a little bit weird. I tend to imagine a lot of things having a life force that they may not already have. I'm a meaning-making machine. It's never stopped me before. Talking to furniture, to walls, sometimes to rocks. But the googly eyes, that would be a really cute thing to do. Just have like all these little books, the spines on the shelf with little eyes looking out. That's kind of fun. Maybe I'll do that anyways, just because. Hello, Marta. Welcome. And how's Marta doing today? And Brandon talking to plants. Of course, of course, of course, of course. The plants, it's taken everything. Brandon, have you started planting any seeds yet? Have you started your seeds on anything? I am seconds away. It took everything in me today not to do seed starting for today's live stream. Because I always tend to start a little bit early, but there are some plants that need a little extra time, right? Like my pepper plants always seem to need a little more time. So I think next Wednesday might be a seed starting kind of day. We'll see. And Lottie's saying, our plants at home have names. Figgy, Audrey, Pamela. Oh, that's awesome. That's amazing to hear. I love that so much. Let's see. Let's get some embroidery thread out here. And of course, folks who know me too, I do talk to myself all the time as well. I find it such a useful skill to have. And it is a skill, I think, because it takes a little overcoming so that you don't feel completely weird doing it, or that you don't feel inhibited when you're talking to yourself. Let's see, what do I want here? That might just look, well, maybe I'll try that. That might look a little too light, but let's give it a go. I think talking to ourselves or talking to, our plants, it's lovely. It gives us perspective. It allows us to figure things out. And Brandon's saying, oh, excellent. Brandon has started some seeds. It's a bit early, yes, I know. But peppers, some herbs, eggplant, and onion. So they're all okay to start around now. That's good to know. And you're right, some herbs are good because you can also keep them inside. They can stay inside a little longer. And if anyone is doing any, what is it? Cuttings. If anyone's taking any cuttings off of other plants, I suppose this would be a good time to start cuttings up as well for certain herbs. So that by the time they can have really strong root systems before you plant them. Yes, this is a time of dreaming. I think that's what I love the most about planting seeds. The dreaming time. And of course, that is all about potential as well. Potential possibility. Now I tend to have, let's see. going to start improvising with some stitches here. Giving it some texture. When in doubt, just start. If I think too much about it, I won't get much done today. So I'll just jump in. And Jenny's saying, I need to start talking to my snowman and snowwoman salt and pepper shakers. Are they something special to you? I do know people who collect salt and pepper shakers. That's absolutely a thing. It's absolutely a thing out there. And there are days, especially, if you don't have anyone around you, directly around you, it's easy. And this is anytime, not just during pandemic times, but it can be easy to just get out of the habit of talking sometimes, especially if you're someone who likes the silence and that's having those inanimate things to talk to can be good practice. But there is something about saying things out loud, similar to making art, getting it out of your head, hearing it in a different way, being able to look at it in a different way. So, if you do see me wandering around the streets of Oshawa and I'm talking to myself, you can always check in to see how I'm doing. But it's not necessarily a bad thing. Oh, Brandon saying planting seeds brings out the kid in Brandon. Love checking them every day for progress. Isn't that's a really exciting time. I love that same thing too. I love tending to them. I love taking care of them. I think for anyone out there who maybe can't have a pet, this might sound strange as well. Try seed starting, try growing something. Or even if you do have a pet, there's something really beautiful about nurturing something and watching it grow and the relationship you build with it over time. Something so, so beautiful. Yeah. Checking in every day to see if something's happened, if the soil has been broken by a tiny green shoot. Even the times where I've been disappointed and maybe a seed hasn't bloomed, then it's this like a really interesting time of thinking, okay, what now? What if? What can I do? What next? And you don't need a lot to grow things either. Perhaps, Brandon, I know we've talked about this before in the past, but maybe there'll be an opportunity to have you on. Maybe a live stream about seed starting. Maybe. You've got so much wisdom. You're so naturally gifted at this. And I know you've studied it as well. Got such fabulous resources out there. And at the end of the last season, I made sure to collect seeds from my own garden as well, which is a first for me. Usually I forget and it's just, time flies and I miss the window of opportunity. But I definitely started collecting flower seeds. And I also, around the neighborhood too, which was interesting. I hope people didn't mind. There were people, if I knew some of my neighbors, I would ask them if I could collect some seeds from their garden. But I do admit there were a few houses when I was on walks with Alice where I just kind of grabbed them. Not all the seeds, but some of them. Some of them. Is that a part of guerrilla gardening? I don't know. And Brandon says maybe. There's a maybe with a winky face. So, folks, you heard it here first. A definite maybe from Brandon that he might talk to us about seed starting. Maybe. The art of growing things, of nurturing plant life. There's a plant out there for everybody, for sure. And Jenny with the snowman and snowwoman, salt and pepper. Okay, all right, Kroner. Let's take a moment so that you can speak a little more clearly. The salt and pepper shakers, a part of your Christmas decorating. Well, that's it too. We collect things. Those seasonal collections count as well, don't they? certain things that we have out at certain parts of the year, maybe certain things that we should have out at all parts of the year. If they make us feel good, why not? Why not have them out? So for folks who might be joining us, hello, welcome, welcome. Our Wednesday live stream virtual art studio, our pop-up art studio as we sometimes call it. It's glad to have you here. If you're watching it when it's archived, thank you so much. And thank you for taking some time out of your day to spend with yourself, getting inspired or working on whatever you need to get inspired by, stirring up that inspiration, the possibility, the potential. I'm working on an art doll today, so I'm just giving some texture to the fabric that I've colored with some water-soluble crayons. It's a bit damp. What's kind of nice by stitching into the damp fabric is that the thread is taking on a bit of the color as well, which is kind of cool. A little bit rainbow. Oh, and Laura's saying, oh, lovely. So I'm not the only person having a little conversation here about the things we collect, the things that are a part of our life that give, meaning to our lives, that bring us comfort, that help us feel safe, cozy, at home. And all the different kinds of collections there are. And seeds are one of those collections for me. They have been. And sometimes I steal things from neighbors' yards. And Laura does as well. So I'm not the only one. And then Laura shares what seeds and plants I can, which is fantastic. Because I think for folks who do start seeds indoors and grow things, well, we tend to have extras, don't we? We tend to get a little, I should only speak for myself here, but I tend to get a little overexcited when it comes to starting seeds. And I end up with far too many tomato plants, far too many of a lot of plants. So when we have those opportunities to share those plants with other people, what a lovely thing to be able to do. And of course, there are things that we might have an easier time growing that other people don't. So I'm still really, really excited and interested in learning about how we can do something like that as the season moves forward. Who knows, maybe there'll be an opportunity for us to have a park gathering, a drop-off day where we can share plants or seeds. Who knows? It might be a little too early and it might be a little too... Might have to share things with a little bit more structure, but we'll see. We want to do it safely and manageably. That's the most important thing right now while we're taking care of ourselves. And Laura used to live in my neighborhood, and there is this wonderful garden on the street just over from me. Linda, who's a fabulous gardener, and one of those lovely houses where there's no lawn, it's just all beautiful garden and beautiful things. And she's the kind of community member who, if you're walking by and she happens to be out and digging in the dirt or moving plants around, and you see something in her yard that you like, and you can talk to her about it, and chances are you'll probably be walking home with some of that plant. She just digs part of it up and gives it to you, and you can take it with you. And I hope to return the favor this year by dropping something off on her doorstep that she can use in her garden. Although I'm sure she has so much. Who knows? I don't know if she has any room, but you know what? If she doesn't, she can give it to somebody else. Has anybody else out there ever done any surprise plant drop-offs for people? What a lovely gift. Plants and art. We could do both. Things that brighten people's days. So I'm kind of really enjoying just making these stitches. I forget how relaxing doing a simple running stitch can be, and the texture it creates on the fabric. Again, it's hard to see, I imagine, out there. I'll do a little close-up of it soon. I'm going to change direction, actually. Start a little bit of a crisscross. Because why not? Hello, Nicole. Nicole says, just got our free prepaid postcard from Canada Post. That's right, I heard about this yesterday. Canada Post is sending one postcard out per household, so you can send a postcard to someone in Canada to stay connected. It is a beautiful idea, Nicole. When I heard about that, I just thought, oh, how lovely, what a beautiful, beautiful thing to do. Beautiful and unexpected. And I think during a time as well where, so many of us have relied on post, on shipping, to get the essentials, to keep ourselves entertained and stock, with things. I'll be looking for my postcard as well. And then who do we send it to? That's another whole conversation, isn't it? And Brandon's saying, just on the idea of giving plants away, Brandon's given excess plants to community gardens for donation plots. That's a lovely thing. And of course, this year, it seems like there should be no problems with getting the community gardens activated again. I know at the beginning of the pandemic, it was difficult, and there were some discussions, at least here in Canada and Ontario, discussions with the government to figure out how community gardens would work and if they could be open. And I think this year they'll be able to start right from the very beginning. So if you've got excess plants, why not? I'm not sure if our folks who are watching and listening from abroad do any community gardening stuff. I imagine that there must be a lot of beautiful gardens out there. Of course, if you're in the UK, your growing season starts so much earlier than ours. I'm so jealous. So jealous. And Laura saying that, oh yeah, Laura, Mrs. Linda. Oh, Linda says hello every time I chat with her. She says hello. And oh wow, so Laura has hens and chicks plants from her that you brought to your new home. And when we moved, I gave her a lot of special plants. We always traded. That's like, what a lovely thing in community to have. There's always one person in the community, maybe not everyone. Maybe not every neighbor wants to have conversations about what they're growing in their front lawn. Maybe a lot of people don't care necessarily. But there's always one person. I bet there's always at least one person on every street who has a passion for plants, and wants to share that passion with other people. It's just a matter of finding that person. And you're lucky. If you have a Linda in your community, you're lucky. I'm very lucky. And Nicole Hen saying one of your friends collects hosta plants. Hostas are great plants to trade. In fact, I've got to divide some of my hostas this spring, so before they get really going. So who knows, maybe if you're in the neighborhood and you pass by, you might see some. And then we have Joanna. Hello, Joanna. Welcome. Oh, Joanna's saying, is this recorded? I joined late and missed the instructions. Thanks, from Joanna in Cranbrook, BC. Wow, all the way from BC. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So great to have you here. You know what? We do record this and we upload it on YouTube. So you can visit. It's a few weeks behind on YouTube, but we just posted one today from late January, I think. Yeah, we always upload the live streams we do there once they're archived so folks can watch and listen. Slightly different experience, but that's okay. We hope folks still enjoy listening to the community chat. And as far as instructions, there's not a whole lot so far with what I'm doing. I can recap, a little mini recap. I took a piece of cotton fabric. I used my water-soluble crayons to give it color. Love that duality of being able to scribble with crayons and then add water to it to soften and blend all the colors. And then and now I'm just embroidering to give it some texture, to have some additional life and light on it. And I think once I have a little bit of that, I might give it its shape and just cut it out. So in the end, this one is a teardrop shape. Of course, knowing me, I'll probably create a kind of heart art doll. Or maybe, yeah, a heart. I'm letting it happen. I'm just seeing where it goes. I've got some wire that I'm going to add some beads onto to create some arms and some extra embellishments. And then sandwich it just simply with, a piece of fabric with some quilting batting in the middle and just glue the edges. I might sew them too, just to secure them. But what I love about this kind of simple art doll, it's something you can just glue if you have to. You don't have to have a whole lot of fancy stuff on hand. But yes, in short, thank you for your question, Joanna. These do upload, and a lot of it is just chatting and learning about what other people are creating out there, what's keeping people going, what they've been working on, how they take care of themselves during strange and uncertain times. Would love to know what you're working out there in BC, Joanna. What are you working on? Of course, you don't have to tell, because I'm not the boss of you. Let's see, a little more texture here. And hello, Wendy, how you doing? And Wendy already answered, look at that. So I didn't even have to give you that long-winded answer. Oh, and thank you. That's very kind. The welcoming words and instructions anytime, Joanna. That's why I'm here. It's kind of just like a hangout, an art hangout. I think that's a way we describe it, and just all the different kind of conversations about the creative things we do, the creative ways we live, the creative ways we humaning absolutely is a creative endeavor. Of course, being able to stay in touch as well during these strange times. This is one way we can do it. And I love the fact that our community is expanded. Of course, out there in BC, you have some different, just speaking of plants, you have so many different you can grow so many different things out there that we can't over here in Ontario. Again, super jealous. And your growing season is definitely extended, similar to the UK, maybe a little bit different. I have friends who live out on Gabriola Island. I'm hoping to interview them in an Instagram live stream one of these Tuesdays. And they've put together such a beautiful garden there. It's one thing I never get tired of talking about. And hello, Ellen. Welcome. Ellen says, I am translating old French poetry while watching you make this fun thing. Love the colors. Oh, Ellen, that's fantastic. Translating old French poetry. Old French poetry is this like how old? I know you're an early musician. So when you say old, I'm imagining quite old. Centuries old? And is this for school or for pleasure? Ellen Torrey is one of those beautiful musicians and human beings that just like, I was rewatching because your Instagram artist chat went up today as well on YouTube. And just rewatching and re-listening to it, just what an extraordinary human being and creator you are. How lucky, how privileged and honored I feel to have someone like you out there in the world, doing what you're doing, taking care of yourself. And you are our Patreon Artist of the Month as well for February. Thank you for that, by the way. I meant to reach out to you as well again. So I'm going to thank you publicly here for everything you shared, all that beautiful wisdom. And you have a concert coming up too, don't you? So everybody, if you want to hear some extraordinary, beautiful music, I think Ellen Torrey has a few performances coming up. Ellen, if you want to post links here to that, please do. I think on the 7th, were you saying? March the 7th, there's one, and then there's another, something to do in relation to school as well, something that's happening in McGill for you. Please feel free to share. Who doesn't need a little bit more music in their life? And of course, during this time, it's for anyone who's involved in performing, it's such a difficult time. We've lost our audiences, that the kind of connection, the quality of connection we were used to having before. So although it's different, if you can show up to support, and show up, it's a click of a button, isn't it, these days, to support these beautiful local musicians who are doing what they can and creating and still connecting with people, please do. Such an important thing to remind them that their work is still of so much value to us, and being able to support them in whatever way we can. And Joanna saying, yes, we have different plants out in BC, but oh, interesting. So Joanna lives on the St. Mary's River with many herds of deer who love to eat everything you plant. Oh, yeah, yeah. It's a beautiful gift, isn't it? A gift and a curse at the same time, being so close to such fantastic wildlife. And then recognizing that that wildlife is also is appreciating the very same things that you're appreciating in what you grow. Yeah, the ongoing battle, the balance. For me out here, it's we have. Well, I'm not quite sure. Every year it seems to change, but for me, oftentimes it's the groundhogs. There's something that likes to dig and burrow into my raised beds, and similar to those old Bugs Bunny cartoons, it feels like they just suck the plants out of the earth magically. And you know what? Hats off to them. That's some skill. That's some serious skill. I can't compete. But that being said, the one thing that I do battle with tirelessly are cucumber beetles, folks. If anyone out there has some top tips for dealing with cucumber beetles, please let me know, because the one thing that everyone else seems to be able to grow, zucchinis and squash, I can't. It's been several summers since I've been able to harvest a single zucchini or squash. I suppose I should be thankful. There are worse things to be dealing with. I'm going to leave that tail there and see what I can do with it. And Nicole was just repairing a broken necklace. Oh, Nicole, lovely. Writing postcards and then repairing necklaces. All creative endeavors. Thanks for sharing. And Ellen saying, oh, thank you for sharing about the concerts. This particular text, that you're translating, the French poetry is from 1669. Wow. So yes, many centuries old. It's for a school recital in May. Excellent. Ellen's going to post the link for her show coming up a bit sooner than that. So the link is there. There's a Facebook event for it, I think. So folks, check it out. Come and hang out and watch a concert. Oh, excellent. So here we go. This is where the Skillshare begins. Laura has a couple of necklaces needing repair or reimagining. Maybe later. You might get... See, you never know when you're going to inspire someone with whatever you're working on. What else do I want to add to this? I think I'll add some green. Maybe I'll wait. I'm going to wait. Add some shape, Mary. Oh my goodness, is it 2:54 already? So for folks who are watching this once it's archived, this usually runs from 2 p.m. till 3:30 p.m. Oh, I've sewn my hoop on. It usually runs from 2 p.m. till 3:30 p.m. And sometimes I'm better at completing projects than at other times. And I love, whenever I get stitching, time just melts away, along with the stress, which is a beautiful thing. But I do try and get a little closer to completing a project so that folks can see what it looks like. So I'm going to dive in and get onto that part right now. I'm going to use, again, these aren't permanent markers, but it's okay because it's an art doll as well, so it won't be used in the same way as another doll. But what I like about using water-soluble markers here is that it also gives me the option to blend it out later with water as well. So if I'm looking at those lines later on and thinking, no, not really, too much, that's okay. And I don't have any pinking shears on hand, so I will just use fabric scissors to get this done. I'm going to trim away. And again, as I move forward, I can always simplify this. I can make it smaller. Like any work in progress, like any art piece, it can evolve. It will evolve. I'm going to allow it to evolve. And art dolls tend to have that a sort of sculptural sense to them as well. That's a word I'm having. That's a hard word to say, isn't it? For me today. And maybe I'll allow the edges to be a little rough as well. Maybe it'll be might be a nice touch to have them kind of fray and get a little thready as time goes by. Unravel a bit. I want that side to be a little sharper. I do like a wonky heart. As far as symbols go, I think that symbolizes me, a wonky heart. And Nicole giving us an update about the squirrels appreciating the sunflowers. Oh, Nicole, don't get me started on the sunflowers and the squirrels. You know what? Squirrels compared to cucumber beetles? Yes, I will give the squirrels a little more leeway than I do the cucumber beetles. For folks who know me, I'm a vegan, and I love all life everywhere. But when it comes to cucumber beetles, I get a little violent. Yeah, I get a little ruthless. I'm not proud of it. I'm not proud of it, folks. It's just what it is. And Laura's saying, my cat is listening and watching intently. Scratchy noises, lol. Oh, scratchy noises. Here, little kitty, have some more scratchy noises. Well, first I'm going to, you know what I'll do? I'm going to cut out my batting. Now this is just quilting batting. It's some extra that I had on hand. I'm going to make it a little smaller. It doesn't need to be as big as this piece, but I'll start just with the general shape and trim it down. I've actually had quite a few, well, not quite a few, but a few messages from folks out there in the community whose animals watch with them. Cats in particular seem to love art live streams. Don't know why. Maybe it is the sound. But they are welcome. Cats are welcome to the live stream. I think something that's a little smaller is a little more helpful, especially if we're going to be gluing this. But let's see. Trim it down a little bit more, tiny bit more, because we don't want the stuffing to make it exactly like a stuffy. We don't want it to be a stuffed animal, just enough to give it a bit of body. So if you didn't have quilt batting at home, you could use some felt, some fleece, a few layers of fabric. Doesn't need to be anything fancy. And sometimes, in fact, the flatter, like the fleece, the flatter fabrics will work a little more effectively. And hello, Carlos. I'll come back to the weird fact from Nicole in a second. But Carlos saying, hope you're all safe and well, loving this piece you're creating, Mary. Oh, Carlos, well, thank you. And it's just occurred to me that if I'm using this fabric, this may not glue. The sparkly one here, the synthetic one, may not glue as well with the fabric, the glue fabric. So I might have to stitch it just to keep it secure. And Nicole's weird fact, apparently the CBC wrote an obituary for the penny back in 2013. That's an excellent weird fact, Nicole. Thank you. And Nicole, I would be remiss if I didn't ask, what day is it today? In your calendar of special days, what are we meant to be celebrating today? It's always fun to know. That's an interesting piece. So because this fabric is synthetic, I'm just going to give it a little bit of stitch around the edge to give it a little bit of body. A simple running stitch to keep it in place. I kind of like the fact, again, it's going to look a little rough. I like the idea of perhaps creating loose threads in my wonky heart. Interesting. And Joanna asking, what kind of cotton should I buy at the fabric store to do this? I'm looking forward to doing it. Oh, excellent. Well, with this one, I think any basic cotton fabric will work. I think if you're using fabric glue, it tends to stiffen up the fabric a little bit. So if you see this one here, once it dries, it acts almost like a fabric stiffener a little bit. And I just used, I think, just simple, like a cotton ticking, like a cotton sheeting to do it. Something with a little bit of weight might be a little easier, something a little thicker. It might give it a little more body all on its own, a little more structure. But this is something I think you could do even if you have some old tea towels left around. Something, you know, things that were going to be recycled or repurposed that way. I love turning old tea towels into things. They have life and character, and I love all the texture and even the stains sometimes. You know, those stains that just won't come out. They can help determine give a little character to the art doll that you're making. So it, again, doesn't need to be anything fancy if you have old pillowcases or things like that. But the glue will help if you do have some fabric glue. It'll help stiffen things up a little bit. And you can find fabric glue in a lot of places now, surprisingly. This is the kind that I have, and I think it's a, not sure if you can see that, it's Craft Medley fabric glue. Nothing fancy. I think I might have even found this at the grocery store, of all places. And the main difference between a fabric glue and just a regular white glue, it tends to, again, have that stiffening factor that white glue won't have. White glue tends to soften up and it likes working with paper, but not with fabric. Yeah, that's the fabric glue. And that makes sense, Mary. But a Mod Podge might work the same too. So if you've got some Mod Podge on hand, it's worth giving it a try. I've used Mod Podge with fabric before. And again, if you're not washing these, if you're not throwing these in the wash, you shouldn't have any problem at all. This time has just flown by. Thank you, everyone. I needed this. I needed a little bit of relaxing artsy time with the community today. And this one is becoming, oh, I like it actually. I wasn't imagining that it would be this fluffy. The other one turned out quite flat. But I love this. Maybe it's a conversation we were having about stuffies earlier on and the importance that the role that stuffies play in our lives. Maybe it influenced me. And hello, Courtney. Courtney just saying, oh, a lovely little shout out to everyone. Love you all. Well, what a lovely thing to say, Courtney. Thank you. And also, I think I should mention too, for folks that are interested, and I know Marta might still be here in the live stream, or Danielle might be here somewhere, but in a couple of weeks, through the Facebook page, if you look up to subscribe to our Facebook events, you'll notice we're going to be adding a few more activities. And these will be We'll be having a few more live streams that we're doing on, I think, Monday nights at 7 p.m. These will be with fine arts students from Durham College Fine Arts Community Collaboration course. They're going to be coming on to teach me a few activities, some simple things that everyone and anyone can do. I think one will be painting with dots, which is kind of fun. And it's one of those things that you don't think a lot of until you actually get down to it. And once you're involved, you realize all the beautiful things that you can make just by painting, like adding color to a page or an object with dots. And then I think there's going to be some figure drawings from the other students, some character drawings of different, sort of inspired by different things. So tune in Monday nights. Keep an eye out for those activities. What's happening? What's happening, needle? Why are you getting stuck? See, there I go, talking to the needle. Oh, and Nicole has an update for us. It is happy. Folks, it's Happy If Pets Had Thumbs Day. There you go, March 3rd. Happy If Pets Had Thumbs Day. So I gotta think about that one. Is that we're wishing that our pets had thumbs, or we're glad our pets don't have thumbs? Is it a wonderful imagination about what would happen, how life would be different if they did? There's so many things to consider there. It does make me wonder how these days get decided upon. Maybe we need a happy Art Hive day, a happy virtual Art Hive day. Courtney's saying, you never know who needs to hear I love you. You're right, Nicole. Or, sorry, Courtney. You're absolutely right. Sometimes it's just good to know, to be remembered, to be remembered and to be reminded of the fact that we are loved. There's love out there for everybody who wants it. There is love to be had. Care, just to know that we're cared for. Thought of. I think that's another lovely thing to remember too. In those moments where things may not be working out so well, or we might be feeling a little gloomy, a little dark, we are thought of. And whenever we can, I think it's a nice thing to be able to reach out and remind someone of that. Through a phone call, through a text, through an email, through a letter, a postcard, if you've received your postcard from Canada Post. But in lieu of that, we're all so busy these days, and it can be difficult sometimes to reach out for a whole bunch of reasons, but just because we may not be hearing from someone doesn't mean that they're not thinking of us. I think that's important to remember sometimes. All right, I'm going to create another thread to dangle, and maybe, I think it's not something that will happen here, but I might give this whole creature a bit of fringe. Because why not? And Nicole's saying, I crochet tops on tea towels. Oh, excellent. I crochet tops on tea towels so you can hang them on the handle of a stove and make them look fancy. Why not have a fancy tea towel? Why not? And Nicole is surrounded by stuffed dolls that she's made. I can believe that. I can believe that. So there's quite a lot of stuffing around. You're one of the lucky folks who just happens to have stuffing around. All right. So I'm going to turn these inside. Maybe I'll keep this like this for a little bit. Maybe. And how much time do I have? It's 3:10, folks. Maybe I'm going to give this wonky heart, some wings. Now, you can add like the wire arms here. There's lots of different ways you can begin adding all these extra embellishments on. And if you don't see over here, I have a whole bunch of little bits and pieces. Oh, hello, phone. Oh, that's so nice that person is calling. But you know what? I'm going to... Yeah, I'll call them back later. I have all these embellishments here, the old bits and pieces of costume jewelry, little broken toys sometimes over here, little things like that have just sort of shown up and I don't know where they've come from. I think I'm going to be adding some of these onto this as well. So that might become the fringe around the heart. I might be adding on some beads and some fringe beads, but you can also use wire and things like that to create arms, wings, tentacles, ears, whatever you might like, halos, whatever you need. Because this is a green, growing symbol of spring and hope and potential for me, I think what I will do is create some leafy kind of wings, wings inspired by leaves. And I don't have any wire cutters on hand right now, but I do have some old scissors. So I'm not going to use my fabric scissors to cut the wire. This is very thin gauge wire, so I don't feel bad just giving a little trim like that. It breaks really easily. And I think I'm going to put some beads on this wire to give it some arms, some wings. That's right, leafy wings. And Laura replying to Nicole, they're saying, oh, excellent. So you're talking about the crocheted. Laura's saying, so handy. Look for those at shows, craft shows and thrift stores. The tea towels with the crocheted hangers attached. Yeah, yeah. That's like, yeah, why not? Fancy tea towels, folks. It's a thing. So, maybe I'll... This is the period of the live stream where I begin talking to myself as I'm figuring everything out. So this thin wire that I'm using is thin enough that I can string beads onto it, and it's really nice to have around. And of course, if you don't have a bead store near you, I know a lot of folks don't. It's not so unusual. I always like looking out at thrift stores and yards. Oh, hello, beads everywhere, beads. I love looking out for old necklaces and things like that I can deconstruct. So if you don't have a bead store near you, but you'd like to experiment with adding beads to your art, or even, again, creating new jewelry, try creating new jewelry out of old jewelry. Because a lot of those things, unfortunately, end up going into the trash. We see something as it is, but if you give yourself a moment to imagine what it could be, possibilities are endless. And that's the gift of a creative mind. That's the gift of embracing your inner artist, that we begin to see possibility and potential everywhere. That tiny bead spill just reminded me of all the bead spills we used to have at the studio. As Margaret would call it, a crap-a-lanche. From time to time we had this bead drawer that was full of seed beads, hundreds of seed beads. And every once in a while, that drawer would get pulled out a little too much, or perhaps someone wouldn't realize that it was full of thousands, perhaps thousands of seed beads, these tiny little guys that I'm working with here. And they would go all over the floor. And of course, being an art hive, we couldn't just throw them out and sweep them up and throw them away. It felt so wasteful. So usually with the help of a couple of awesome, super awesome volunteers or placement students, we sweep them up, we clean them off, we put them back in the drawer. Let's see, do I have another? Oh, I could have sworn that I'd brought in some other beads. These ones are just fine. Yeah, the thrift store finds. It's not just about what the thing is. It's about what it could be. I also love turning old tea towels into aprons and things like that, and pillows. Some really cool, weird, random tea towels, travel tea towels and things like that. So there you go. Just creating that little bit of beading there for the leafy wings. Oh, lovely. Nicole's saying, I was exploring some of my old art today that I'd forgotten about. It's interesting reflecting on how I've changed over the years. Oh my goodness, absolutely. That's why encouraging people to, hold on to your sketchbooks. Maybe make yourself a little folder, perhaps, where you keep your work. Because even the things you create that you're not so fond of right now, that you feel you don't have any need for in your life right now, you never know what it might mean to you when you turn around and look at it once time has passed. Even with, I know I've talked about with Carlos before, even with digital art, being able to save your works in progress, your drafts, your versions of things. It's a pretty powerful thing to be able to look back and see how you've grown, how you've developed your skills perhaps, but also to revisit ideas that might hold new meaning for you. And the things that you didn't like in the past when you created them, when you perhaps didn't have enough perspective from them, for me at least, it's extraordinary to see how often those things begin to look beautiful or powerful to me as time passes. Time it's just interesting, period. I try to remember that. Especially when my inner critic gets a little bit too loud. But what were some of the things, it'd be interesting to know for anyone out there, not just Nicole, but if you've looked back over your art and you've discovered new things, perhaps you've stumbled back upon an old journal or an old sketchbook, discovered it in a good clean. What are some of the things that you noticed looking back about yourself and where you were at, what you were creating and how you were creating? What are you able to appreciate now that perhaps you weren't in that moment of time? We all have something to learn from our past creations. It's like talking to ourselves, time traveling. It's more than just a thing, more than just a product. It speaks to us in some way. Nicole's saying as well, I made a necklace for a doll out of the chain from a ceiling fan. Repurposing at its best, right? I remember once at the studio, someone took an old broken ceiling fan, maybe it was Annie, and deconstructed it, and took the ceiling, the fans, the blades, the parts of the fan, painted them and turned it into a dragonfly sculpture for her garden. So again, you never know what that thing that someone else is throwing away could turn into something extraordinary, given a little love, a little attention, a little imagination. Oops, come back here, bead. So that's shaping up quite nicely. And all the things I've done today have been so relaxing. Thanks so much for hanging out with me here. I may not have been as chatty as I normally am, but the process has been really soothing. And I hope for folks out there who are perhaps feeling a little out of sorts near the beginning, I hope that maybe you're finding a little bit of relief, a little bit of lightness, a little bit of inspiration as we move forward. And maybe you're not making art, maybe you're doing something different, but that's okay. You're still a part of the creative community. And Carlos saying it can be really nice revisiting old art in whatever capacity that may be. Looking back at some of my art as a teen, oh, interesting, it was dark and kind of angry. That dark element is still in some of my current pieces, but it's not angry anymore. So there are elements that have survived and kind of evolved over time into something else. They wouldn't have happened without that previous experience or slash mistakes, etc. I guess that comment can be seen with the layers about art and life. Life and art are like onions. So many layers. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And what we, I think there's certain things that we need to experience that we can make meaning of as we move forward. So what might be scary or unlikable at a certain point for us and the work we do, even perhaps in the life we lead, it's not always going to be that way. And it might become that extra layer underneath that makes something more impactful, that gives it extra oomph or resonance with someone else that looks at it, who can relate somehow to what that experience was. And Joanna is saying, oh, yes, Joanna's saying, this has been wonderful. Oh, my voice, well, I'm glad my voice is soothing. Imagine how horrible it would be if it wasn't soothing. Oh, my goodness. But thank you for being there and listening and chatting. Gives me somebody to talk to. And it's always wonderful to know what people are working on out there. So if you do have pictures or links, just a friendly reminder. And the show and tell piece that we'll do after this usually goes up about 15 minutes after the live stream has ended on our Facebook page. If you have something you'd like to add to that or post to show us what you're working on or celebrate something that you're working on, please feel free. Just another way for us community members to appreciate one another and all that we're doing, even though we can't be with one another sharing space. Doesn't mean we can't shine a light on what we're doing and celebrate it. And let's see. Jenny asking, how do you attach the wire? So there's a lot of ways you can attach the wire in something like this. If before it's glued, you can sort of sandwich it in between the layers. I think if you want, depending on the thickness of the wire and how much it moves around and how much you want it to move around, you can also stitch it in. So this wire is so fine. I might kind of crimp the end of it here, for example. Like well, why not? I'm just going to wrap that, right? And if I have a needle and thread, which I do, I'm lucky like that, I might actually stitch that piece on. I can stitch it onto the front, I can stitch it onto the back, wherever it feels right. You can also create a little tunnel out of fabric or bias tape. So on this one, for example, you can see, again, nothing pretty, it's all right. I took that fabric glue that I had that I was working with, and I glued on some trim and I stitched on where the wire was just to secure it, to keep it from flopping around and twisting and turning. You can do whatever you like though. And again, if you don't like having the back like this one open and raw, I always like seeing the raw edges a little bit. I like to see the work and what I do. I like to be reminded of my process from time to time. But if you didn't like that, you can just add another layer of fabric onto that to disguise it, to hide it, and then you have something a little more polished, perhaps some folks might say. And this is an interesting thing. Where do I want this to be added on? I actually kind of like the idea of having it perhaps becoming a part of this. Interesting, interesting, interesting. So you know what I'm going to do now? I am going to trim this down. I'd like to see a little bit of that green, so I'm going to leave a little of it around the edges. These kind of art dolls are very forgiving. And remember, they're symbols. They kind of hold meaning for us. So that meaning, it only needs to make sense to you. It doesn't need to make sense to anyone else. Of course, if you want to make a gift for someone, a little art doll gift, that's a beautiful thing as well. That just adds a little layer of shimmer. I do want to add something for eyes. I do want to add something a little more. I might take another circle of fabric actually and layer it over the top to create a kind of focal point, a face to my creature, my doll. Maybe I'll do that with this here. Maybe it'll be another heart, as it turns out, another wonky heart. And I've seen art dolls. I've made mine fairly, this one here, fairly large today. I think partially so folks could see it as I was working on it. But also, you can make them tiny, you can make them small. Think of an art doll as a brooch or as a pendant, something that can be tucked into something else, put in a pocket. Maybe your art doll has a pocket that you can tuck things into. I'm going to make my little face here for this doll a little dreamy. Just a simple, simple face. But you can see, let's see if I go, let me just lay this over so you can get an idea. As everything evolves here. How elements like the texture on the fabric in the back, or the beads that you have on the wire, or the background, or every little element can enrich this. It can make it a little more interesting, a little more... Let's see if I can hold it up a little bit even closer to the camera. Right? You can begin to see this evolving and becoming something a little different than it was, a little something special that every time you look at it, you might see something else. Now, this is in the early stages still. You can make it as simple or as complicated as you like. It's your art doll, so whatever works for you. But for me, that's one of the things I really love. I love being able to see it becoming something. To have like just all those little tiny details, those little mistakes, those little bits and pieces coming off or hanging around. I like being able to see something different every time I look at it. Let's see what I got here. I'm going to secure that little face on. Do I want dark or do I want bright? Maybe I don't want dark green. Maybe I'll take a yellow, something golden. There we go. Come here, thread. Work with me, work with me. And Nicole's saying, I'm taking the scrap ends from the projects I'm making and I'm brushing the yarn to make fibers. Then I'm needle felting them into a sort of shape that tells an art story. I love that. Sculptural fiber arts. I'm down with that, Nicole. I love it. And of course, that's what would have happened before we had the capacity to just run out and buy new yarn and do all of those kind of things. Once upon a time, culturally, we would repurpose everything. If an old sweater that had been knitted was just at the end of its life and couldn't be mended, oftentimes people would unravel that sweater and it would become something new, return to yarn, if nothing else, that could be turned into something else. And yes, Jenny, I used watercolor crayons on these. So they're called different things. Water-soluble crayons, water-soluble pastels. They can be found at most art stores and places like most arts and crafts stores will have some version of them. I have a nice big set here of 24, but you can buy smaller packs. All right, so here I begin. First, let me secure this. Here comes the singing. All right, so that's good. So I'm just going to stitch through this top layer to secure that wire. Yeah, water-soluble crayons, they're not that hard to find these days, which is great. They're not super expensive either. I love using them. You can use them on paper, you can use them on fabric. Again, they're not permanent. They're not like fabric paints. But for art projects, for things like this, they're so much fun to have. And you can use them on so many different types of surfaces. Well, paper and fabric, so maybe not every kind of surface. But it's a great kind of creative tool to have around if you're just not sure what to do. You know, you have those days where you're like, I'm not sure what I want to create today. You can start moving in one direction, see how it goes, and then if you feel like getting a little flowy with it, pull out the water and the brushes and turn it into something else. Transform it. All right, so there we go. There's a nice, that's secured in its own way. Perfect. I'm going to leave that wire hanging out there at the side. I'm going to turn it to a little wing afterwards. And for this little face, I am going to stitch through both layers. Just to give it a little more structure. Again, this is something that can be, this is a lovely little scrap project to use up your scraps. This is a lovely project, just something to have on hand to turn to when you're not quite sure what to do, to keep fussing over, you know, that fussing with that creative work, that sometimes it's good to have a little project that isn't quite ever finished. And like going through these two layers, we'll just secure it a little bit, add another little bit of definition into it. And of course, in true living room fashion, no perfection allowed. Folks who've been watching these live streams for a while probably are getting a sense of why I love that saying so much. No such thing as perfect. Definitely not in the things that I create. But perfectly imperfect, perfectly delightful, perfectly me. And Jenny Vandermeer is saying, you know those balls that form on sweaters? I've been collecting them and hoping to add to something, maybe an art doll. Oh my goodness, Jenny, yes. How brilliant. So, okay, you've just given me something else. Another art supply to collect from the things I have on hand at home. Oh my goodness, the possibilities are endless. What about things like dryer lint? What about just those little bits and pieces? You know what, in sewing threads, because I have, you know, when you're sewing, you're on the machine or whatever, if you're lucky to have a machine, I love my sewing machine, but all the little offcuts that you make of thread, saving those up as well, because when they get scrunched up together, they become these delightful little colorful art beads that you could also use in an art doll. I've got some. I think I'm going to add them to this. Giving texture, a little bit of brightness. Who knew? Who knew? Don't throw away those balls of lint that you remove from your sweaters. You can turn them into art, folks. I imagine those could be needle felted into projects as well. And how are folks doing out there on their projects? Speaking of needle felting, Laura was needle felting something. How's it going? And that's it, right, Joanna? Saving the colorful dryer lint? Why not? I think as the spring emerges, another project that I'd like to try as well is creating an art nest. This emerged out of talks with the local conservatory, and there was an organization out there creating nests that I think were used in either their sanctuary work for birds or, put out there for wildlife to reclaim and use in whatever way they wanted to. Insect hotels, sometimes using things like dryer lint as long as it's not too chemically treated. There's all sorts of things that we throw away that can actually be repurposed into something else with a little bit of creative ingenuity. But an art nest, because I love the idea of, just that sense of nesting. So maybe we'll have some seed starting coming up in the future. Maybe we'll do some nest building, some art nests to hold all the things we care about. How exciting. Never a shortage of ideas, folks. Thanks for being here. So inspiring chatting to everyone. And yes, I'm looking at the time. Oh goodness, I've gone over. Surprise, surprise. But I do so enjoy hanging out with folks today. And like I said, I needed this. So if you're watching, if you're just joining now, we are, believe it or not, we are beginning to wrap up here and bring things to a close. But you're more than welcome to watch what you missed. It stays up on Facebook. This live stream will stay up. So if there was stuff from the beginning that you'd like to see, you can always go back and revisit. In a few weeks, it'll go up on YouTube as well, so you can always visit there. We also post all our artist Instagram live stream chats there too. That work out, technically, that is. So you can go and learn about other fabulous makers and creators in our community of Durham region, but also our global community. All the wonderful people we're connecting with here online. I feel like if anything positive comes out of this, and a lot has, I think there are opportunities and things to appreciate in everything that happens to us, even the really difficult stuff. But one of the things that I am grateful for is that this change in how we do things at our art hive has enabled us to connect with so many people that we wouldn't have otherwise had a chance to meet. And some of you are here today listening, watching, doing your thing. I think we focus so much on famous people, the artists we admire, the artists and creators out there who are doing really cool things in the world, and they do need to be celebrated and supported. But I also enjoy meeting people who are just making because they can, making because they love it, creating because it's a part of who they are. And it is a part of all of us. Creativity is a part of our birthright as human beings. So every time we make space for that in our day, whether we're contemplating it or actually getting something done and getting stuck in a project, we're honoring ourselves in quite a profound way. So thank you for that, as always. Now I'm not going to stop. I have to finish this one little patch of stitches, and then I'll wrap it up. Whoop. Oh, come here, thread. Of course you're going to get difficult now. Of course you are. Oh my goodness, no, you all need to be in there, threads. Using embroidery threads, you're all together. All or none. At least in this project. Come on. Come on. I'm going to pull out the big needle for this one. Shaky hands, Cronert. No, that's too big. I can't use that needle. All right. Now please work with me, thread. Just work with me, okay? Now somewhere around here I do have a needle threader. I have one of those little gadgets. Do I ever use it? No. Just something about me versus the thread that needs to be figured out. Ha ha! Oh no. Oh dear. All right, now let's just do this. Come. Yes, it worked. All right, okay. I'm gonna be nice to you. And you know what? I'm probably gonna run out of thread before I finish this stitching. Ah, that's that. That's okay. But I'm really liking how it's beginning to take shape. And something that only a few minutes ago felt like it wasn't quite on its way has found new life. And that's the meaning of this doll, isn't it? It's about new life and possibility and growth. So as I'm working on this, all those things that I've been thinking about and talking about with you have kind of gone into this doll. All right, I'm going to have to load up more thread. But I do like that a lot. I like to think of that. That all the things we've been talking about, everything from seed starting to feeling out of sorts, to what's the opposite of out of sorts, to repurposing and reclaiming things that would otherwise go into landfills and bringing it into our art. I love that that has all gone into this tiny creature. Right? And this isn't done, but it will get done in its own time, in a way that feels right. But that's it for now. Let's see another close-up. Let's see what that looks like. So it's beginning to take shape. It's beginning. Hopefully the next time you see this, it'll have even more character than it does right now. But for now, that's all we need it to be. Folks, thank you so much for joining me today. Thanks so much for sharing space and creativity and your art and your heart, all of that. Thank you. We'll be back again for another Facebook virtual art stream next Wednesday from 2 to 3:30 p.m. But don't forget, Tuesdays on Instagram, we have our artist chats, and we also have some really cool additional kind of programming coming up. What can I do? Can I do a rundown? We have those Monday night arts live streams we'll be doing with the fine arts students from the Durham College. We also have some Tuesday morning Zoom rooms we're going to be doing with some of our students. So look out for that. Just some virtual Art Hive hangouts that we can have with one another face to face. Why not? Let's give it a go. Every Tuesday evening, we have the Wellness Art Group with Kat and Caitlin. Oh, Wednesdays with me. Thursdays, what do we have on Thursdays? Oh, we have all sorts of lovely posts, but Thursday evenings we have the Art Jam live streams from 7 to 8 p.m. So for you night owls out there, if you'd like to tune in, we have guest artists coming in. This week it's Bridget B. Noonan, who will be back with embroidery and fiber art, perhaps some hand lettering, we'll see. So that's Thursday night from 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And Fridays are all about music. We have an activity where we'll be sharing music and favorite songs that remind us of certain themes that our students suggest. So why not come by and be a part of it? There's all different ways to enjoy and participate. Something for everyone. So thank you so much for being here. Oh, and thank you, Momo. Hello, Momo. And Carlos, again, always signing off. Carlos always signs off in the most loving ways. Thanks as always for an awesome space. Well, thank you for helping create that space. And this was wonderful. It was wonderful. It was really nice to just relax and hang out. And Carlos hopes that everyone has a safe and awesome week. And we'll catch y'all later. And Brandon's saying thank you as well. And Brandon, yes, I will be. We'll talk. We'll talk about doing some seedy stuff, like seedy in the nice way, like in the green growing plant way. Because you're awesome. We have such awesome resources in our community. I'm so very lucky and grateful. Everyone, thanks for being here. Have a wonderful, safe week and take care of yourselves. And please continue to honor your creative spirits. And until we can connect and create with one another again in person, I look forward to connecting and creating with you right here online. Bye, everyone. And yes, Laura, bye, perfectly imperfect people. Wabi sabi. I gotta check that out. Bye now.